Welcome to the first lab of Power Automate in a Day. Okay, let's illustrate what we want to be able to achieve. We will create a timesheet, which is basically an Excel document in OneDrive for Business with the following columns. And we will create a flow. And anytime we get into some specific place, we want the user to be able to click a button in the flow, and the location of the user plus additional information will be stored into this document, into this timesheet. Okay, this is what we want to do. So this is the timesheet, this is the flow, and when we run the flow, we can put some comment here. My way to work. We click run flow, and we should see an additional row in the timesheet. Okay, on my way to work, and the system knows exactly where you are. Okay, so that's cool. So let's do it. All right, so let's go to office.com, where we are going to create an Excel document in OneDrive. So let's go to OneDrive, OneDrive for Business, and there let's create an Excel workbook. And this Excel workbook will have a table, and this is where a flow that we will create later on will put information. So let's create a table here. Check my table as headers. And in this table, we are going to create 4 columns. The first one will be the where column. The second will be the who column, when, and the last one will be comment. Right. Let's rename this document in OneDrive for Business. Let's call it timesheet. Timesheet. Yeah, it's better without S. Okay. And what we're going to do is we will create our first Power Automate cloud flow. And to do this, you just need to type make.powerautomate.com, which will redirect you to the Power Automate portal. This is the portal. Or you can go to the Microsoft application and you'll find Power Automate there. So to go to the Microsoft application, you just need to type office.com. And in the Power Automate portal, you will see the environment you're currently associated with, but you might have other environment. The good practice is to create complex application in dedicated environment. We'll do that later in the labs. But let's stick to the default environment, which is named personal productivity parentheses default here. And in the Power Apps portal, there are many, many features. You can create new workflow. You can create workflow from scratch or from templates. There are plenty of templates that I encourage you to take a look at. I've learned a lot from this template. You get the documentation where you can learn more about Power Automate. You can see the list of flow that you did previously created. And you can create new flows from here, new flow from a template, or you can create automate cloud flow that start automatically, or instant cloud flow that started based on a specific action, or scheduled flow, that means flow that start based on some specific schedule. Or you can describe what you want to do and Copilot will generate the flow for you. So if you click create here, which is where I usually start from, you will see all these categories of workflow: automated, instant, schedule, or describe it. But also, you can create desktop flow from there, or process mining application, which is not in the scope of this training. Let's create an instant flow, because what we want to do is to create a flow that will start when we press a button from or desktop or from a mobile application. In a flow, you need to specify which trigger you want to use, what will trigger the flow. So in this case here, we're going to select manually trigger a flow as the trigger. And this will redirect you to the designer. So this is the Portomate designer. There are actually two designers, one which is a new designer, the current one, or you can switch to a previous version of the designer. You can get help from Copilot. You can save the flow, you can test the flow, etc. So basically in the flow, you have one trigger plus several actions. So here, this flow, if you want to save this flow right now, you'll get an error because you need more than a trigger, you need an action. So let's rename the flow that we are creating, time tracker flow. If you save it right now, you see you get an error because you only have a trigger. You need a trigger and something else, actions. So let's add an action. And what we want to do is when we press a button to start the flow, we want the flow to write the information about the location, for instance, into this Excel spreadsheet that we created before. So let's find the Excel connector, and in the Excel connector, Excel Online connector, you'll find different action like delete a row, get a row, etc. These are actions that you can make use of. And the one we are looking for is add a row into a table. So let's select this one, and let's put this one after the trigger in the designer. And now we can customize this workflow or this action by first specifying on the left side the properties that this action needs. This action will be connected to your spreadsheet by using a connection. In my case, I already have a connection, but you probably don't have an existing connection, so you have to create an action from scratch by doing this, and you will have to provide your credential here. Okay, but I already have a connection for this action, so it's automatically used. Here, you need to specify where is the location of your spreadsheet. It's in OneDrive for Business, location, and document library is OneDrive. So let's select OneDrive. The file is located in here, right? Timesheet. And you need to select the table that you want to handle. It's table 1. And here you'll see the parameters that you need to fill in, like the where. And the where will be grabbed from the trigger. So as you can see here, when we move the mouse into a parameter, we can fill in this parameter by using a dynamic value here, you see, this dynamic value, or by writing your own custom code. It's the fx down below. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the where from the trigger. So we can use dynamic value. It will, and then select the trigger. And in the trigger, let's use the full address, which will be provided usually by the mobile application. The who can be grabbed from the same place, but actually we can select the username, which is provided by the trigger, and the when, in this case, we're gonna select a timestamp property, also provided by the trigger. All right, so now we can save the flow here, and we can test this flow. So when the flow is saved, we can test it here by clicking the test button. Here, we want to run the flow manually. Test. You get information about the action that requires some sign in. Click continue, run flow, and your flow has been started. We can see the trace of the flow here. And if you go back to the timesheet, you will see what the flow has written. Okay. So the location is pretty good. It's very interesting. So it's quite very specific here. So we get everything we need. Right? The where, the who, the when. So easy so far. Let's edit this flow. Click back here. And you will see that we have more information about the flow. So this is the flow panel. You see, time tracker. You get information about the environment, the primary owner, it's yourself. The status is on when it has been modified, the type of flow, it's an instant flow. The run history, by default the system keep 20-day run history. And so which gives you a link to the trace of the previous run. And if you click the trace, you will get into the debugging information. You can debug your flow. You can see what it takes to run your flow and where the value associated with each action in the flow. Okay, we can see the list of connection. There is only one connection here that point to Excel Online. The owner or co-owner, we can have one owner and several co-owners. We can share the flow with other people so that other people can use this flow because it's an instant flow. That means it can be started from a specific action from a user. Okay, so all of this is very, very cool. And now let's edit the flow to get back to the designer. And what we're going to do is we're going to hardcode the where. We won't grab the where from the trigger dynamically because to be able to run the flow that grab this information, the location service of your computer need to be set, need to be activated, which does not work in some enterprise laptop. So you can hardcode, that means specifically put the location instead of grabbing it dynamically from the trigger here. Okay, so if you have an error which is location service is not activated, then you have to do this. Okay, you can hardcode this location. Okay, we'll change that later on. Okay, so we get this information in the spreadsheet. Fine. And now what we're going to do is we are going to convert the timestamp information into a good format. Let's add an action between the trigger and add a row into a table. Let's type convert in the search, and you will see that there is actually a connector called datetime here, which provides an action with a name starting with convert time zone. So let's use this action here. And what we're going to do here is we're going to convert. So click convert. And in the panel here, we're going to grab the timestamp information coming from the trigger here. And we will convert from UTC time into the destination time, which in my case is actually Belgium. I'm in Brussels. Okay, and I can specify the format that I want. So there are plenty of format that you can select. Okay, that's easy. But what we're going to do is something a bit more advanced, which is we are going to use or to specify a very custom format. So you can do that. And you can type the format that you want, which is this one, lowercase d, uppercase mm, y, for the year. And then we're going to put the time, so hour, minute, and second, like this. Okay? I would give you the link to the description of this format. Right. So now we can save the flow. Right. Ah, yes, we need to put this timestamp here in the spreadsheet. Don't forget to grab that from. All right. So let's save the flow. Let's test the flow. Save and test. And normally you will see that in the spreadsheet, the timestamp is a bit more user-friendly. Okay, so it's much better now. Okay, cool. Now, what we're going to do is we will run this flow from our mobile. So I have an Android, but this also works, of course, from an iPhone if you want. So let's display the mobile here. Okay. And here you see in my mobile, I have a Power Automate application, which is a bit slow, I have to admit. So in this application, you can select the environment, you can switch from one environment to the other one, you can see the flow in each environment, you can edit the flow, you can run the flow. We'll use that application later on to approve some approvals notification that we get. You can get the flow details. You can see the flow run from this mobile application. Okay, you can see the connection. You can deactivate the flow, disable the flow. You see edit, remove. I'm not sure this application is the good place for editing a flow, but okay. Almost no one use this application for editing. All right. So if I run this application, normally the system knows where you are. You are in your mobile, so it knows exactly where you are, the location of your mobile. And the location service does not need to be turned on. So in this case, it's not necessary to R code to directly put the location into the workflow code. You can dynamically grab the location from the trigger. So what we're going to do here now is in the trigger, we're going to provide a way to fill in some information at runtime. So let's add a parameter, which is an input. There are other type of parameter. You can specify files, date, etc. But let's name it comment. Okay. And the user will type a comment, and the comment will be stored into the spreadsheet. So let's go to the comment property of the add a row into a table, and let's grab the comment here from the comment property of the trigger here. Let's update the where. We can dynamically grab the location, save, test if the location service works on your computer, of course. And you get this text box that you can fill in when you start your flow. Click on flow, and let's go to the spreadsheet, and we get the comment here. So that's cool. And if I try this from, so if you check the debugging information, the trace information, you will see where this information is stored in each action. Behind the curtain, it's stored actually in JSON. So you can manipulate this if you want. We'll do that later in the exercise. Okay, so let's go to the mobile and let's run the workflow from the mobile. Yeah, the mobile application is not really very interactive, to say the least. Okay, now run flow. And normally you should see this text box here. Okay, let's put some information. Congratulations, you have finalized your first flow. Now you can move to the next exercise.